So, tell me something terrible. Garlic my crust.
It was awful.
That was my favorite thing about Hungry Howie's.
The garlic my crust.
Yeah, because everyone got garlic crust, and I would always say garlic my crust. And that is like the skankiest sounding metaphor.
That's nasty.
Because any body crust is not good crust. I don't care where it's at.
Oh my God. I didn't even. It's fine.
What did you think? You thought garlic my pizza crust?
No, yeah.
No.
Just garlic my crust. Like,
No.
and then that's the end of it. Is the garlic my is the joke.
No.
Crust part. Oh,
Yeah, no. Crust on any part of your body, no bueno.
I know.
And that wraps up my Spanish vernacular. That's all I got for you.
You took French in high school.
Oui, oui.
You can tell.
Thank you.
All right, are you ready to actually start this thing?
Yeah.
Good. Because
Are we going to start at the garlic my crust part?
Yep.
Cool.
I've dripped water all over my
Also,
notes.
warning, this is a deep dive.
And it's so bad.
I don't know how bad it is.
It's
but
very
she
bad.
has pages and pages of shit. So, start your Friday off with just an hour of Tiff making us all feel terrible about humanity.
Yep. That's exactly what we're going to do.
Is it? Hold on. I need to listen to actually how we sound.
Okay. Doing all right?
Yeah, you should introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Scott.
And you're listening to Tell Me Something Terrible.
Yeah, you are. And
Where I giggle every time he says, yeah, you are.
yeah, you are. Backstory.
Okay.
We just not you. You were here with me.
Was I? My ADHD kicked in.
We just watched an hour of Hot Ones.
Yes.
What is it? Before we feast? After we feast? First we feast.
First we feast.
Anyway, YouTube series, Hot Ones. We just watched 2 of them.
2 of them. We watched 1. Oh, this week.
Yes,
Okay.
but we just watched 1. So we started drinking an hour and a half ago. So this episode, A, is going to be long, and B,
Might go off the rails. Again.
it's just going to be a different flavor than usual.
Is it going to be spicy?
Yes, it's going to be a hot one.
No.
No?
Nope.
Also, she's been warning me all day about how terrible this is.
Uh-huh.
You had to take like a 20-minute decompression after research.
I finally finished it. And it's heavy.
So jokes are going to be at a premium here, so just really enjoy them if they happen.
Yep.
No, can I make an appealing joke? That's my banana reference. That's a callback to Tuesdays. Anyway, but this is episode 40.
It is a deep dive.
What's the 40th anniversary? Is that silver?
I have no idea.
My parents had one. We should really know.
We should. We're never going to get there. Just kidding.
40.
Love you.
We will get to our 40th anniversary
We're on number 9 right now.
in 2052. How does that make you feel?
Are you still going to be alive by then?
We'll see.
That's a legit question.
64.
The Beatus isn't
I'll probably
gonna take
retire
you?
and die in the same year.
That tends to be the American dream. So,
You just said this episode was going to be terrible, so I was going to start it off really somberly.
okay.
Somberly?
Great. I'm going to take it.
There's no way somberly's a word, is it?
I don't know.
Burly's a word.
For sure?
I think I would be described as burly.
Yes. Okay. With that, we're going to take
Am I
it.
tall enough to be burly?
No.
Okay. As soon as I
You're
said that, I
just
said,
cute.
I was like, burly's probably 6 foot minimum. I don't think I make the burly club.
No.
I'm not that hairy besides my face either.
Thank God. I don't know. You've been getting hairier, and I don't know how to handle it.
My ears aren't hairy. Let's chalk that up as a W.
Yes, please.
Anyway, okay. Back to you making our lives terrible.
Yep.
Also, I almost have the bonus episode written, so we're going to record that this weekend. Next week,
Okay.
no normal episodes.
Nope.
So this is coming out Friday,
Yep.
the 23rd.
Yep.
There will be no episodes next week, but
If you miss us, you can pay $1, and there's a backlog.
yeah, we have 3 levels of Patreon. All 3 of them get all the bonus episodes.
All 4 of them.
We only have 3 levels of Patreon.
All 4 bonus episodes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry. I was like, we only have $1, $3, and $5. Anyway, if you desperately need more terrible things in your life, you can do that. And in all of them, I tell the story to Tiff. So it is
To the point.
angrier and shorter.
Yep.
Because I write shorter stories, and she gets fired up.
He has a
quicker.
science background, so he's very much like list.
Spark Notes.
And I'm very much like, this motherfucker.
Yeah, she hates the world, and I just tell her about the world to hate. But this one...
It's a great symbiotic relationship.
No, but the one I'm writing now, it's like... It's somewhat terrible, but it's also somewhat like... just interesting and weird. So you won't get... I don't think you get mad about it. You're going to get confused.
I will find a way.
Probably, but I think you'll get confused about it.
Okay.
So I think that'll be more fun.
Which makes me angry.
Yeah, I think that'll be more fun. Anyway.
So with that, we're going to really take it down then. And
this one's going to suck.
It's bad.
I think all the ones I've done on the Patreon have all been kind of fun.
Yeah.
One was local. One was like kind of hillbilly murderish.
Bro, those
what
shots.
What was the other one?
Yukon Jack.
Oh, the Yukon Jack. What was the third one? I don't even remember.
It was the Purple Gang. Also local.
Oh, yeah, the deep dive in the Purple Gang.
Yeah.
Deeper dive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and this one's, I'll give you a hint. It's about the South Pacific. Right? You're like...
the South Pacific.
Exactly, see? You're
wow.
like, I don't even know where that is.
We only believe in murders that happen in Oregon.
In the Pacific Northwest.
Northwest, yeah.
All right.
So we're gonna finally jump into it. I'm also...
Let's get at her.
I'm also going to do local.
I thought you were going to say South Pacific. I was like, how'd you know?
No. So we're going to cover a serial killer. So he's a Michigan serial killer responsible for 2 years of terror in the Ann Arbor, Ypsi area.
Okay.
Yep. So he was...
What time period are we talking here?
The late 60s.
Okay.
Before Ted Bundy.
Okay.
Yep. So he was known as the co-ed killer or the Ypsilanti Ripper. His name is John Norman Collins.
How many co-ed killers have there been?
A couple.
I was going to say, that's not very original.
No, but this was like before a lot of that got really big. What do you want? Men like to kill women. That's why we don't trust you guys. That's why we carry mace and shit.
Okay.
You laugh. I have pink mace.
I know you do.
So he's responsible for 6 to 8 murders, possibly up to 15. He spent the summer of 67 through the summer of 69 harassing.
The summer of 69?
Yes. Harassing and murdering
69.
women. It's a rough year, 1969.
Woodstock, right?
Was it?
Pretty sure.
Close enough. Lots of things happened that year.
Yeah.
So, just for shits and gigs, there were also a couple of teenagers thrown into the mix that were murdered as well, just for fun.
That might be his or might not?
No, for sure, 100% he murdered them.
Oh, so it's co-eds and teenagers.
Mm-hmm. So, This is going to get bad, so we're just going to cover all of the trigger warnings up front. Murder, rape, everything horrible. It's going to get bad.
Is there suicide?
No.
Okay.
No. That one we didn't do. All the horrible things that somebody could do to another human being, we've got you covered. So you're in for a bumpy ride.
So this is Buffalo Bill of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I was going to take like a little creative liberty like to this one and start like slightly out of order, but there's so much information in this, like noted by the 23 pages of like printed off notes in size 10 font, and then like 8 pages of handwritten notes from a documentary, and then another 8 pages of me trying. I honestly wish I had one because I have 8 pages of like notes dedicated to just each victim from all of the facts from the previous 30 pages that I had just
I can't keep track when you get to like 3 victims, so I'm just going to be lost and nodding over here.
Perfect.
And I'm on my 5th fizzy.
Good content then.
So yeah, my nodding really makes for good audio.
Yep. So we're just going to start from the beginning. So let's start with the first
What's his name? Do we not talk about this
I just
guy's
mentioned it. It's John Norman Collins.
You never said that.
Right here. It's the third line down.
I'm not saying you don't have it written.
I said it out loud, bro.
John Norman Collins.
Guys, Scott's going to ask me to repeat things.
Isn't John Collins a thing? John Collins. Maybe I know a John Collins. I thought that was like a drink.
Maybe.
No? Okay.
Google
you keep
it.
Going. No. Yeah. This is how things go.
He was reaching for his phone while he said, okay, you keep going.
Yep.
So we're going to start with the first disappearance. It happened on July 10th, 1967. Also, I'm really sorry if I get some of these facts mixed up between each victim because there was so much to sift through that I may have gotten a couple things switched up. My brain was dead by the end of this.
So John Collins is a basketball player. That's why I've heard the name before.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm I feel like there's a drink that has the name Collins in it.
Cocktail. Yeah, John Collins cocktail.
I should have put a little more forethought into this, and we could have had John Collins cocktails tonight. Tell for the people what's in the John Collins.
Similar to a Tom Collins. That's the drink. A John Collins is made with bourbon whiskey instead of gin, but still mixes lemon juice, simple syrup, and club soda. So
we have all those things.
Tom Collins is the actual drink. John Collins is his cousin with bourbon instead of gin.
And that sounds way better.
You like gin.
I do, but gin gives me a really bad headache because I got old.
Okay, anyway. Back on track.
So on July 10th, 1967, Mary Fleischer was a 19-year-old EMU student.
Fleischer. Anyway.
So she was walking alone at night back to her apartment when a young man...
Without her pink mace.
Nope. There was a young man that pulled up beside her in like a gray, silver, bluish Chevy. She kept trying to shake her head and like walk away, but he kept pulling up beside her. And that was the last time anyone saw her. There was a nearby witness watching the exchange between her and this unknown stranger. So I'm
going to guess it was John Collins.
Maybe. Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. So he kept pushing her to get in his car until the pair had driven / walked across the corner and out of sight of the witness. Mary was found nearly a month later on August 7th, 1967 by a pair of teenage boys playing near an old farmhouse.
It's always the teenage boys that find the bodies.
Constantly. No, almost every single one of them.
I meant like every story we've done.
Yeah. It's because teenage boys just go out on their own digging through shit and they're like, oh, a head.
Yeah, they used to play outside. It's weird. Now it's like these 7 kids were playing Pokemon Go and they
Bro.
Brah.
I should do one on a Pokemon Go murder.
We should start playing Pokemon Go again.
Okay, well, there's a park. That park has so many.
I know. Trust me. You've mentioned this.
I have. Dude, when I was going to school in Ann Arbor... Dude. When I was going to school in Ann Arbor...
That's dude with 2 O's.
Dude. There were so many. I would just walk out of class and go to the parking garage and I'd catch all the Pokemon.
All of them.
Anyway...
Got to catch them all.
She was found by an old farmhouse near LaForge and Gettys Road.
She was found by an old...
At an old farmhouse.
Yeah, not
by
like,
the teenage
boys. The farmhouse didn't find her.
No.
She was located near the farmhouse.
She was dumped at the farmhouse.
Okay.
So the boys heard a car slam and an engine turn over and the car had sped away. So of course they had to investigate. They found a mass of decomposing flesh, and once they finally noticed that it was a human head attached to it because they saw like her ear, they called the police, who identified it as human remains. Clothes nearby were ID'd as Mary's by her mother, and it was confirmed through medical records. The autopsy performed concluded that she had been stabbed 30 to 40 times, raped, and had been dead for a month. It was also evident that her body had been moved 3 times since she was initially placed at the farmhouse.
I wonder how they came up with that.
Because you can find the juices from the body putrefying.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm wondering how when they get they find her in the final place, how they're like she's been moved 3 times. Anyway.
You can tell by rigor mortis, petrification,
no, I understand.
All different sorts of.
I know there's science behind it. It just intrigues me.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. Don't you have a coworker who studied?
They yeah, Brittany has.
Yeah, so ask her. Maybe she'll know. So once she had been moved 5 feet to the south and then another 3 feet and then again at least one other time. The killer was clearly coming back to visit her corpse. Possibly moving her. It could have been an animal. They're not 100% sure.
She moved 3 times within a small vicinity.
He had murdered her.
Oh, okay.
Dumped her here.
I thought they meant this is the 3rd time her body had been moved overall
within there. So they assume, they know for sure he visited her body at least once because the teenagers obviously heard a car slam and speed off. But she had been placed initially at the dump site because all of them have been murdered someplace else, and then had been shifted throughout that dump site.
Thrice he moved her.
Thrice. So after she was taken to the mortuary to be prepared for her funeral, a young man showed up stating that he was a cousin and wanted to photograph her, even though it was noted that he did not even bring a camera with him.
Just with his eyes.
So he was obviously angrily told no, but no employee was able to give a good description of this stranger.
I'm going to say it was John Collins.
Possibly. So a year passed, and then another EMU student went missing. That's
Eastern Michigan University for all you non-Michigan listeners, since half of you are not from here.
That is true. So
it's not emu. We're not spelling the words emu.
No. We're not quite that stupid. I know we're from the Midwest, guys. It's an acronym.
It's an ostrich and an EMU.
Man, they really missed out.
Did they though?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you have Why wouldn't you have an emu for your?
It's a bird.
What is it? Is it an eagle?
Probably. It's usually an eagle. I don't know.
Lame.
Western's a Broncos. I don't know what Eastern is.
I don't even know what Central is. Central's just the letter C.
Central's the Chippewas.
Is it?
It was. I don't know if it still is.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I don't even. Are Chippewas from around here? That's like a southern. I don't know. You think I should? I should know, but I don't. So while you Google that, I'll keep telling you horrible things.
Is it worth me Googling?
Yes.
Okay. Eastern Michigan.
Yep.
Mascot.
Oh shit! I knocked the mic over again.
Will you behave? It's the. Oh, they're the Eagles. Their mascot itself, his name is Swoop.
Oh yeah.
Like Swoop. There it is.
They needed a marketing team.
They did.
So this next student that went missing.
They used to be. Sorry.
You're fine. I'm drinking.
They're the Eagles was adopted in 91. They used to be called the Huron. Native American, it put in parentheses, but they replaced it.
But we have the Huron River and the Huron Lake, and neither of them are close enough to that school to dictate them being called Huron. I'm
just telling you the facts, lady.
Lame.
That's why they're the Eagles named Swoop. Like, named after Cheryl?
Cheryl Swoop?
You have no idea who Cheryl Swoop is?
No.
It's like one of the most famous women's basketball players in American. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, and you're surprised I don't know who the fuck that is?
A little.
No.
Okay.
I'm not that much of a feminist. Anyway.
They're just things that I assume people know that.
No one knows half the shit you know.
I bet you some people know who Cheryl Swoop is.
One person listening.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it.
So anyway, a year passed, another EMU student went missing, and her name was Joan Shell. She was 20 years old and studying art. So July 2nd,
Don't be all happy with because
I think she went missing in like an orange floral dress too, because it was the 60s, and it was just everything about this is so stereotypical. Mm-hmm. So July 2nd, 1968, Joan had missed the last public transit bus back to her apartments, so she was going to hitchhike. Joan disappeared that night, getting into a car with three men.
Dumbest part of the 60s.
Hitchhiking, yeah. So she was found nearly a week later on July 6th by a group of construction workers. There's this area that was being developed where they were building these huge-ass houses with pretty big-sized yards for, like, Ann Arbor. Mm-hmm. That's important. There's one area where they're building houses in a construction site.
Okay.
So
noted.
Yep. So she was found by a group of the construction workers. Although she had clearly been dead a week, her body had been placed at the construction site no less than 24 hours before she had been found. Her autopsy showed rape. Her throat had been slit. She had been stabbed no less than 47 times. There was proof that she had been held.
How oddly specific. Like that's
because they count the wounds, right?
Yeah.
And so like after 47, they were like, "Nah, we're done counting."
Some of these could be repeats.
Yeah. No. Sometimes they just stop fucking counting.
That's still fucked up. Yeah.
So there was proof that she had been held somewhere else before being brought to where she was ultimately found. Her upper half of her body had been like a darkened, thick, leathery sort of state from obvious exposure, but her bottom half was still relatively fresh, as if it had, quote, lain in a root cellar and been preserved. Yep.
That's weird.
So 2 students had witnessed Joan with John Norman Collins before she had disappeared. This was the first time that he was brought in for questioning, and the police didn't find anything that he had to say sus, and they took his alibi at face value, and he was just let go.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're thinking the root cellar could have been something like connected to...
Was she half buried or something?
No, to a farm. So they're thinking that she could have easily had her top half hanging out. You know those doors that like close, like what used to probably be on our house,
like tornado cellars.
And so like one half of it was preserved because it was hidden from the elements. The lower half of her body, lower half of her body.
Yeah, I understand what you're getting at here.
Yeah, It's weird. It's very Ted Bundy-esque.
That's where all the rape parts are.
Yes, it is.
Well, most of them, yeah.
Wow, that got dark.
I'm just saying, like,
Women have multiple holes.
Yeah.
Ouch. So then there
it's
was
not dark. It's correct. It just, I mean, it happens to be dark, but yeah.
yeah. So this whole thing happens to be dark. So the alleged third victim was found 10 months later in a cemetery. This was named. Her name was Jane Mixer, but after sifting through the evidence, she was removed from the victim list when a nurse named Gary Lederman was later convicted of her death. But what was done to her is very close to the Collins's MO.
So did you put Gary Lederman on your list of topics?
No, mental note. So because a lot of the bodies were held they were in a very tight dump site. They were this is the area that he dumps at, and then she was way out of it, and she was really reminiscent of the Boston Strangler, and so they're this doesn't quite fit, and then eventually they found somebody else
So it might have been a copycat of someone else's.
Yep. So she was kind of removed. So Collins' victims would usually disappear without a struggle, and they were left someplace where they would easily be found.
So he was a decent enough looking white guy who had a car.
Yes, he was. Mm-hmm. And a motorcycle.
Good.
Yep. So he frequently used strangulation, beating around the head, which dehumanizes his victims, stabbed and shot. Articles of clothing were commonly missing. They were left nude/semi-nude, and there was always evidence of sexual molestation or rape. So according to Doug Harvey, who is the investigating sheriff of the case, he'd said, quote, he would always shove something up her vagina.
Vagina?
Yep, that's verbatim.
Okay.
That's how he said it in the documentary that I watched. I'm over here hearing all these horrible things, and I see a 70-year-old man being he always shoves something up her vagina, and I was like, oh dear God.
Can you spell that for us, sir, just for the papers?
It was amazing. So me watching this horrible crime documentary, and I'm over here giggling, taking hand notes,
I was waiting for you to figure out I thought you were gonna say some anatomical her anus or something. No, you had
straight up
you had vagina.
Her vagina.
Yeah, it's his favorite state too. Have you been to West Virginia? Sorry, it's terrible. All right, we're back from a drink break.
Okay.
Should I put in that bit about the whistling?
I think we need to make this a little short audio clip of it.
Okay.
Okay.
As you were.
All right.
Keep ruining my night.
Yep. So I have quite a few more victims to go through before he finally gets caught.
6 to 8, up to 15.
Mm-hmm. They don't really mention more than that. So we'll just keep
mention
more
than 15? We've gone through 2.
No, they really only mention 7 or 8.
Okay.
The other ones were never really.
Your fingers.
I have to flick to the next page.
You don't work in a lab, clearly. If you licked your fingers, you'd have gonorrhea herpesiphilitis by now.
No, I wear gloves, so if I have to do something like that, I just take my gloves off.
I do too, but if you licked your fingers, you'd die.
I luckily wouldn't die. I would just get someone's lady bit.
You'd have
on me.
Yeah,
it would be very
have a
unprofessional.
flesh-eating bacteria in your mouth. Anyway,
I hope not. You would. I would.
Yeah. No, I see. Anyway, on the reg.
So, do you really see flesh-eating bacteria on the reg?
One of the streps is flesh-eating.
No.
It is.
I'm not okay. Hold on, stop. I gotta take a pause to
No.
Sorry. I'm oh, you guys gotta test for COVID, and that's really scary, but there's also a lot of other scary shit that
I'm in micro now. Yep.
It doesn't matter. I'm MRSA, what? I don't know. You had fucking flesh-eating bacteria where you worked at?
Yeah, we do. What the fuck do you think?
I don't know.
We get all the bacteria. We don't just pick and choose. No. We only want the chill ones. Only chill bacteria.
We only want staph and E. coli. Everything else needs to go someplace else.
We have anthrax procedures. We don't see it, but the fact that we could is scary enough.
Okay. Sorry, sometimes it hits me where I'm because you come home and you're yeah, my job's no big deal, and I'm how's your day? And you're fine, it was boring. I read a bunch of stuff and threw a bunch of stuff on a machine, and I'm cool. And then every once in a while, you just fucking throw the fact that you get anthrax and testing what you guys get your regular anthrax once a year to test for it and fucking flesh eating bacteria. So we
don't test for anthrax once a year. It's just The state sends a thing to make sure we have a procedure in place to rule out anthrax.
Okay, I'm just saying. Every once in a while, serious shit gets thrown at me because like you're like, it was chill and nobody gives a shit, and then all of a sudden you're like, what?
2 episodes of Expedition Unknown. I did my job.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh yeah, flesh eating. Yeah, that happens sometimes. What the fuck? When? And I was worried about COVID tests.
Will you get back to your thing? You've got like 8 more pages to go, and it's midnight.
So
someone's got to work tomorrow.
Yep. Me too. Super early.
You're going to edit this podcast tonight?
No, piss
exactly.
off. I would accidentally delete it. So victim number 3 or 4, now that we've officially lost count in all of the chaos, since it was the 60s. And
I think this is 4.
Yeah. No, because Jane Mixer for sure is not. She is not. They found somebody else. They thought she was it. She was not.
Okay, so this is 3 of actual Collins.
Yes, 3 of actual Collins, but she was the 4th body to be found because it was the 60s and they were finding dead women with long brown hair everywhere.
It's before creative coloring was a thing.
Yeah, well, we should get to the Son of Sam.
If people couldn't dye their hair, most women have like brown to mousy brown hair.
That hurts my feelings.
It should hurt most of our females listeners' feelings because y'all got brown hair. Most of you.
And most likely it's ashy mouse brown. And that's why my hair is brown. Yeah. And that's why my hair is orange.
That's your sweet spot. You just avoid it like the plague.
Yes. So his next victim was Marilyn Skelton. So she was only 16.
Skelton?
Skelton. Skelton.
Not skeleton.
Nope.
Just skeleton. Okay.
You gotta get that Midwest Skelton.
That Ellis Island. Let's just drop that letter.
Yep.
Move along.
Yep. So she was only 16. She was a high school dropout. She was trying to get from Arborland Mall to her boyfriend's house where he was practicing with the band that he was in.
Of course he was.
Yep. So it was the 60s, of course.
Yeah.
So Marilyn had made a phone call to the drummer in the band, hoping that she could have a ride. Unfortunately, the drummer, I think his name was Ed, said that he couldn't pick her up.
Geen? Probably a good call.
Doubtful.
Sorry.
That's like 60 years ahead. Yeah, behind.
Do you think we should hit some of the heavy hitters for all our people that don't listen to like a million podcasts?
Yeah, we'll get to it. I'm just starting with a local serial killer
No,
first.
I know. I'm just wondering, like...
Ed Gein is fascinating.
No, I know, but there's you and I have
also,
listened...
I don't know how much you would care for Ed Gein because he kills children.
No, I wouldn't. I understand. I've heard enough about, like... A few of the listeners that I know we have... We're like the only, like, we're their introduction to podcasts. Nice party foul dripping half that all over my mouse pad. But so I'm wondering is how many of the heavy hitters that like we've heard of like on every other podcast we listen to
that we should do.
Yeah, or at least we should, do like not a deep dive, but at least an overview of them.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't heard of them, like not that you should, but like. There's a reason every podcast covers them. They're interesting and they're fucked up. And
they're interesting, they're fucked up. And more often than not, they are people that have sprung forward a lot of technology that we use today.
Yeah. Well, and it's like how in like the NFL, there's like the coaching tree. So like one coach will have all these assistants who will go on to be coaches, who will go on to be... Anyway, so it's like serial killers or like mass murders. Like they have like all these people that they like... inspire
or not just inspire but also like you gather so much information where you're like, okay, well in this one we introduced this kind of technology and this kind of technology and this kind of technology, and then we were able to use all of that stuff in this case to kill the to find the next serial killers. Because like this happened before serial killer was even a term,
which is why it sucks that Mindhunter was not brought back on Netflix.
I am so mad and I don't want to talk about it.
Right? All right. You got to finish this. It's almost tomorrow already.
Anyway, the drummer couldn't pick her up because he didn't have access to a car. And he told her so when she called. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't come get you.
Of course, he's a drummer in a garage band. You think that loser's got a car?
Also, it's the 60s. Not everybody and their brother had a car back then.
And if they did, it weighed 3 tons.
Yes, it did. So she had to hitchhike. And she was picked up by Collins. So she was last seen alive on March 24th in 1969. She was found the next day by another set of construction workers. Her body was posed in a I don't even understand how they would even think this is a thing. Anyway, it's been repeated multiple times in all of the articles. It was posed in a rape position. I don't know what dictates that. That was just how she was described.
Like, is it like
Probably legs wide open
spread
and like
eagle?
yeah, not
for lack
like
of a better. I don't know if there's a better term for that.
no, there really is not.
It's not a nice term.
No, it's not at
Especially-
all.
no.
But it was. I had to read it over and over and over again, and I was like, guys,
Maybe it's supposed to like inspire patriotism.
wow.
I'm just saying spread eagle. Like, why is it an eagle? Like, there's every bird has wings. Why is it an eagle?
Well, because it used to be a dance pose.
Spread eagle?
Yeah, come on. 1920s? The Chicago? How many times have I made you watch that?
0.5.
That's unfortunate. We need to go back through that.
Do we, though?
Yes, we do. It's
That
great.
was early on. Anyway.
So she was found less than a quarter mile away from where Joan was found.
Okay.
In
the
that same
housing
construction.
development?
Yes, in that same PUD. Which is, I can't remember what PUD stands for. It doesn't matter.
Urban development.
Yep, that's the last bit of it.
Pougie.
So, pretty much. Pougie instead of bougie. It's where everybody sticks all the same houses that look exactly the same with the same yards, and you usually have home, like, association.
They're all 2,400 square feet, 3 beds, 2 baths.
Fuck off. They're cookie cutter awfulness. Sorry if you live in one. So Marilyn was the most brutally murdered. She was killed with crushing blows to the head, which left 3 cracks in her skull.
Jesus.
Yep.
Criminy.
Yep. She was beaten with a heavy strap that was most likely a belt, and then she had a garter belt used to strangle
Wait, he
her.
hit her so hard with a belt he cracked her skull?
No, he hit her with his hands so
Okay.
hard that he cracked her skull, and then they found welts on her body
Gotcha.
that resembled
I thought he
a
broke her
heavy
skull
strap.
with a belt, and I was like, the fuck? How hard would you have to hit someone with a
No.
belt? Anyway.
This guy just goes over the top constantly
Yeah.
with multiple weapons. So, like, there's
Is
other...
he a big guy?
He's about 6 foot.
Okay.
He's a football player.
You might call him burly.
No, it'd be
that
more
was
like
just a
the like
callback.
fit football player, like the thinner.
Yeah, that was just a callback. You didn't catch it.
No, I didn't. I've been drinking too much. So anyway, she was left with a branch inserted into her lady bits.
A branch?
A
Like off a
branch.
tree?
Yes.
In her vagina?
Yep.
That is fucked up.
I told you it's bad. I'm sorry. I was like, oh my God, serial killer from Michigan. And then I was researching and I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm dedicated. I got to get through it.
That's horrible.
Do you see why I had to decompress?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So there was a dark blue piece of fabric shoved into her mouth.
Like jeans? Like denim? Or
Yeah.
it's like a washcloth?
They don't know. It just said it was a dark piece of fabric.
Okay. She
found
was
in her
probably
mouth.
strangled with it either way.
Yep. So now we're going to move on to his youngest victim.
Oh, that's all we got on that one? You're just
Yeah.
going to leave on that majorly fucked up note and move on?
Yep. All of them are
Great.
majorly fucked up notes.
Cool.
So we're going to move from a 16-year-old to his youngest victim.
Wait, 16 wasn't the youngest?
No, it was not.
Great. I need to go take a nap.
And she fought like hell.
Good.
So her name was Dawn Basin. She was 13 years old.
Jeez.
She was an 8th grader.
It's fucked up.
Yep. So Dawn was taking a shortcut back to her house.
You're really telling me something terrible this episode. Like every
Really.
paragraph is
It
just
gets
gotten
worse.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dawn was taking a shortcut back to her house along some railroad tracks on April 15th, 1969, when Collins had picked her up. There was a sign of a struggle with Dawn.
Is this before the 16-year-old then?
This was after the
I
16-year-old.
thought she was in July.
No.
Okay.
She was in March.
Okay.
Shit. I threw that paper way over there.
No, it's fine. It doesn't actually matter. I didn't know if you're going chronological
I
order.
was.
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
Yep, because I was trying to be all cutesy with it and be like, they did this, and this is how they found him, and then let's go into his backstory. And I was like, no, bruh, there's too much. Just do it in order.
Yep.
So she was found the next day on April 16th, along with her torn white blouse with her bra pushed up to her throat. Her breasticles and her butt was slashed with a knife, and a black electrical cord was used to strangle her.
Okay.
Yep. She was also found with glass in her hands and in her knees. This is important.
Is she going through a window or a table?
A window.
Okay.
Yep. So her shoes were found thrown down the road, so the police set up a miles-wide perimeter to find the rest of her missing clothes. Her orange sweater was found along with other pieces of her like white blouse that she was wearing and pieces of the black cord along with fresh blood. They were all found in a barn at an abandoned farmhouse.
Okay.
Yep. So the scene was processed, and in the basement of that abandoned farmhouse, the police had found a broken basement window. So
she tried to get out of a window.
She tried to get out of the window in the basement that he was torturing her in, and then they'd found evidence that he had caught up with her and killed her in the woods. So she fought
and tried to escape.
Yes. So they had found the scene of the crime, but there were still no clues leading to their murderer. And at this time, there were 5 other precincts that had gotten involved with trying to solve these like strings of horrendous murders.
And there wasn't like DNA or anything at that point, I imagine.
I mean, there was fingerprints, and they could do blood typing.
So the fresh blood was like useless in terms of
right. They could determine like what type it was, and if it matched her type, and they could figure out like if someone was like. We
did blood typing in college at a podunky school, so yeah, that's not
it's not that
advanced.
Impressive now, but like, and back then they would be able to figure out if someone was a non-secretor or a secretor, which means that they would be able. So like
this before
non-secretor, we did with the DNA and the cum. Okay.
We don't need to trust me. That scarred me for life.
Did it?
Yep. I remember distinctly.
So 2 weeks later, that farm had burned down. And the police had found 5 lilac blossoms placed in a line in the driveway.
For his 5 victims?
Mm-hmm. So the week prior, police had found Marilyn's gold-plated earrings and more scraps from Dawn's white blouse in the barn, knowing that it had to be the killer just taunting them.
Yep. So it burned down mysteriously.
Mm-hmm. So they know those objects were not there when they had initially searched the property because they found the crime scene and they did a thorough search.
But there wasn't cops watching the crime scene?
No. And then, well, yeah, it was the 60s. They had other shit to do. They probably had other murders to solve. But and a lot of this shit was leaked to the public because a lot of the victims' bodies could be found in pretty public places. Mm-hmm. Like there was one point they tried to have a media blackout but the victim that they'd done it after was found in such a public place. Hi, Mama. They were unable to do so.
Mm-hmm. That's our cat's name. Her mom's not actually here.
No. But I believe she's a listener. So hi, Mom. So Collins was getting bold and he was also getting messy. Allison Colum. She was age 23. She was a U of M graduate, and she was going to grad school at EMU. Mm-hmm. She was found on June 8th, 1969 by 3 teenagers. They were walking through a different abandoned farmhouse, and she was found at the edge of a field near North Territorial Road and US 23.
I've heard of both those.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd hope so. You take 23 to get to Ypsi.
Okay.
Yeah. We drove down it.
Yeah, no.
Very recently.
I've just heard of North Territorial Road.
Yeah. So Allison had been shot in the head.
Shot? That's new.
Yeah. So she had been raped and she was stabbed at least twice with her throat slit from ear to ear. So
like Joker style.
Yes, but like not her face. Her throat.
Throat, yeah.
Yes. So her clothes were also scattered around her with her shoes missing.
I feel like shot and slitting the throat ear to ear is a little overkill.
Mm-hmm. Well, he probably slit her throat first and she wasn't dead, so he shot her.
I don't care what order he did it in, it seems like overkill.
Yeah, it's all over. His MO was overkill.
Okay.
Just wait, it gets worse.
Can it?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
Great.
So
Wonderful.
A strip was cut from her purple blouse and was tied around her forehead, and her pantyhose were slit open, and she had one purple shoe laying next to her, even though those were not the shoes that she had worn out that night. There was an empty box for her purple shoes, along with her purse that were found at her apartment.
Okay.
So this indicates that Colin and Allison had stopped back at her apartment after she had accepted a ride from Collins on the way back from that party that was at the Depot House in Ann Arbor. So he's creeping along EMU and Ann Arbor's campus.
Okay. They're not that far apart.
No, they really are not. Like what, 20 minutes?
I don't know.
So a task force was finally set up to start staking out and collecting information to track down the killer. It was set up in an abandoned Catholic seminary, and there were 5 precincts that were working together.
Not an abandoned farmhouse. They had a better chance of finding him there.
Probably. So at this time, Colin decided that a road trip was in order.
Okay.
So he and a friend...
Are we heading to Florida?
Nope, California.
Okay. Florida or California, those are your options in the 60s.
Yep. So he and a friend had wrote a bum check to rent a camper
A
trailer.
what?
A bum, like it bounced. They wrote a check and it bounced to rent this camper trailer. And they hauled it behind that shitty silver Chevy that he'd been driving.
Silver-ish? Yeah.
That Chevy was actually registered under his mother's name. Collins was just driving it while he was in school.
Okay.
It was a Cutlass, in case you cared. So...
Is that an Oldsmobile?
Chevy Oldsmobile Cutlass? Yeah, I think so. So, anyway, he wound up making his way to Salinas, California, all the way across the country. After spending a day or two cruising and kind of familiarizing himself with the area, a 17-year-old named Roxy Phillips went missing on June 30th, 1969. She was mailing a letter. She was on her way to meet a friend and was picked up by a man in a silver Chevy car with Michigan plates. Yep, so he kept cutting her off, and she just kept shaking her head and like walking away, and he just kept driving ahead and cutting her off. Mm-hmm. And according to two witnesses and the two drivers that he nearly took out when he sped away.
Yeah.
So that's just what they saw happening. So she was found a few weeks later on July 13th in Pescadero Canyon. She was laying in a pile of poison oak and so she was found by a couple of boys who were out searching for fossils.
Oh, is it the teenage boys?
Yep. So she was badly decomposed at that point. She was nude except for her sandals and the belt to her red and white floral dress that she was wearing. It was tied tightly around her neck. So Collins and his friend packed up and headed back to Michigan. And Collins had to stop at a clinic so that he could get treated for poison oak.
What a quinky dink.
Mm-hmm. Curious, huh?
Yeah. Strange.
Yep. So the pair made it back to Michigan, where the friend promptly stored that camper that they had rented with the shitty check in his backyard. And he never returned it.
Why would you?
Yeah, why would you? That friend wound up getting in trouble for like theft or whatever and was sentenced to like 5 years in prison.
Seems like a good guy. I don't know why.
Yeah. So 10 days later, after Roxy's body was found in California, on July 23rd, Karen Sue Beineman went missing. So the 18-year-old Karen was in downtown Ypsi when a young, handsome man riding a silver Triumph motorcycle had approached her. Karen walked into a wig shop on the strip, and nervous and laughing, she told the shop owner, quote, "I just did two things I've never done in my life. I'm buying a wig, and I accepted a ride on a motorcycle with a stranger."
Not a good choice.
No. So luckily, this didn't sit well with the shop owner and her assistant, since young co-ed students had been just disappearing for the last 2 years.
Left and right, yeah.
Yep. They decided that they were going to go follow her outside and watch her get on this motorcycle.
Fresh wig in hand.
Yep. And also an employee at the chocolate shop next door had noted her climbing on the back of this motorcycle as well. Mm-hmm. So once the driver of the Triumph had noticed,
a crowd of
yeah,
people
he
watching?
Turned his head to make sure that they couldn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so she got on the back of the bike. They just sped off. Karen was reported missing, and then a BOLO, which is be on the lookout.
Yeah.
For layman's.
What do they call those nowadays?
BOLOs.
Amber alerts?
It's only if they're children.
It's similar.
We could do that one too. That's a sad story.
Great. Because the mood now is so high.
Yep.
I really could use a downer.
So a BOLO,
I was really good and buzzed before we started this, and now I'm just sad and buzzed.
So a BOLO went out for a man matching the description given by all three witnesses.
And not a bolo tie. Not the weird
skinny ties.
Western tassel thing.
Yep. So there's a BOLO that went out with a description of the man from the three witnesses and his motorcycle. So there's a rookie officer named Larry Matherson who got the BOLO.
Get him, Larry.
Yep. He remembered seeing a frat boy football rival. So like they were both in frats together. They would play intramural football. And he was like, I remember this. Intramural, like between the frat houses. And he's like, I remember this guy. He was a hell of an athlete. He was also a prick.
You could also crack a skull in 3 hits.
So he matched the description. And he also knew that he had a silver motorcycle. And he had seen him while he was out on patrol the day that Karen had disappeared, flirting with other co-eds.
With bad wigs.
Yep. So he went to go question some of these women, and then he found one of his ex-girlfriends. I think it was Larry's actual ex-girlfriend who had hung out with and talked to. Collins. So he'd found that she was willing to part with a photo that she had of him. Mm-hmm. So Collins had flirted with 7 other women that day before he managed to talk Karen onto the back of his motorcycle. So Officer Matherson then went to the shops, mostly the chocolate shop, and gave the employee a lineup. So
went to the candy store. No.
I'll let you lick the lollipop.
Sorry.
That's bad.
The jokes have been at a minimum this episode, all right? We're just getting them in wherever we can.
We're trying. It's desperate.
Just somebody needs a smile right now because everybody's like, fuck. They're driving to work. They're like, God, it's Friday. I just want to drive into a tree. Fuck this guy. Anyway,
so
get to the end of this paragraph. I got to pee.
So Larry had gone to the chocolate shop with a photo, a lineup of a dozen other people, handed them to the employee, and the employee got to the 3rd or 4th photo and was like, oh shit, that's the guy I saw on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And so
that's a silver Triumph asshole.
Yep. So Larry wound up going to the task force with this information. So after setting up a 100-mile radius to find Karen after she was finally reported missing, she was found by a husband and wife who had headed out to check their mail. The wife noticed her in a ditch by their mailbox, kind of in a wooded area.
How often do these people check their mail?
Okay, the thing is, though, he's murdering them off-site and then dumping them.
True.
Yeah.
Usually within a day they get found.
Yeah. Which is, he does that on purpose. At first, the first couple, it took kind of longer than he wanted for them to get found. And so then he started dumping them in very obvious areas so that they could get found quickly. Okay. So the wife noticed her in a ditch by their mailbox, kind of in a wooded area. She was, of course, found nude and badly beaten with signs of torture before she was finally killed. There was evidence of rape either while she was dying or shortly after she had died.
That's fucked up.
Yep.
It's all fucked up, but it's a slightly more fucked up.
I told you it gets worse. So her stomach and her breasticles had been burned with some caustic chemical, and a piece of fabric had been shoved into the back of her throat, and her underwear was shoved into her lady bits. And there was finally a clue that tipped the case in favor of the police.
Okay.
Inside the underwear were about 500 shortly clipped hairs.
Okay.
Yep. I know. I read that and was like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Shortly clipped hairs?
Yep, we'll get to it. So Sheriff Doug...
Was he manscaped?
Nope. Just wait.
Okay.
Sheriff Doug Harvey had called for that second media blackout. This one was successful since she was found very shortly and just by 2 people. Mm-hmm. It wasn't super public. So they planned a stakeout, replacing Karen Sue's body with a mannequin, hoping that the killer would repeat his habit of returning to the dump site of his victims.
Yeah.
Yes. So that night, though, it was raining heavily. And the deputy that was on duty saw a man rummaging through the weeds, and then
shoot him.
Yeah.
Shoot him.
Seriously, who gives a fuck? Shoot his kneecaps, he'll be fine. So he wound up then heading toward his car at a dead sprint. So the deputy tried to call for backup, but because it was the heavy rain and it was the 60s walkie-talkies, the communication had failed.
Yeah.
Yep. So the running man had managed to make it back to his car and sped away before he could get caught. So an attempt to get a good description also was obscured because of how thick the rain was.
And he wasn't on his silver Triumph in the rain. He was back on his silver blue car thing.
Yeah. Good luck figuring out which car that was. Yeah. So now enter State Police Corporal David Like. So he had returned from a family vacation 3 days.
I like this guy already.
He's a good guy. So he returned from a family vacation 3 days after Karen had been found, finding that his basement was askew after his nephew had been house sitting for him while they were gone. You want to take one guess who that nephew might have been?
Collins?
Maybe.
Wait. So the Collins is the nephew of this police guy that catches him?
Yes.
Okay, this is all weird now.
Yep. It's like a movie.
Is it a movie?
It should
Does
be if
it
it's
feature
not.
Nicolas Cage? Because if it doesn't...
Nicolas Cage needs to be Corporal David-like.
My basement is askew. Apparently he's Will Shatner.
So that day, Officer Like received a phone call saying that they believed his nephew, John Norman Collins.
He's a Valley girl. Officer Like. Sorry.
He received a phone call.
3 drinks ago, you would have just glared at me. So I'm glad you've hit that point.
Thanks. So he received a call saying that his nephew, John Collins, was responsible for the co-ed slayings in Washtenaw County. Like promptly went into his basement and began scraping up the black paint that was all over the place. He went down to the basement and was like, why is there black paint?
Covering the blood?
Nope, covering varnish stains. Right? It gets weird. So he found the brown stains underneath, and now Like had to tell his wife, who had seen Collins as a son, that her nephew was a suspect in the murders. And it just played out exactly like a movie. He had been informed that he was a prime suspect. He was someone they were considering. And then he came back from being at the station to his wife, who had literally just hung up the phone from talking with Collins. And he had to be like, look, he's a murderer. Mm-hmm. It's like exactly what happened. So a forensics team had arrived at the house to investigate the stains that were found underneath the black paint. So it turns out that they were just varnish. But why would someone paint black paint over fresh varnish stains? You're trying to ease the tension?
Yes.
So that's when they noticed that there
I'm
were...
opening a drink for all those who can't.
Yep.
During this awesome story you're telling.
So, that's when they noticed that there were short hairs that looked oddly familiar. So it turns out right before vacation, Like's wife had cut their boys' hairs in the basement and had just swept them up into little piles, which were now scattered across the floor. Samples were taken. Then the brown stains, those brown stains, they were found on a washing machine. That stain did test positive for blood. There were 9 stains found in total.
So did he put varnish and then black paint over the blood?
Yeah, they think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just shaking my head in agreement.
Yep. So these blood stains, they had matched Karen's blood type, because that was as far as they could get back in the 70s. Was like, oh, she's type A. These are type A bloods. Mm-hmm. Close enough.
She left-brained or right-brained?
I couldn't tell you that.
I was a type A. Anyway.
Yeah, well, you're a type A, and I'm a type... Well, I'm a type A, but I'm right-brained.
You're type ADHD.
Fuck off. It's undiagnosed.
You send me 74 TikToks a day about how you're ADHD.
Yes, because I hit 32 and finally realized what's wrong with me.
Finish your story, ADHD.
So, anyway...
I wonder why these podcasts end up twice as long as they should be. Not today. You're doing a good job today.
Thanks.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Thanks. If I kill him in my sleep, guys, you know why.
You kill me in your sleep?
And yes, ADHD and you deserve to die. I mean, I love you so much. Sugar's how it's going to happen.
If you sleep kill me, that's impressive for one. Anyway, keep going.
So there were... The hairs that were found in the basement were also compared to the ones that were found in Karen's underwear. And they resulted in a match.
So he took Karen to his aunt and uncle's house while they were gone. Okay.
Knowing that his uncle was a police officer. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like a detective.
Yeah, I told you he got sloppy. And cocky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe let's not call the rapist cocky.
Oh, too soon.
Yeah. Let's just call him a sloppy fuck.
Yeah. That's also too soon.
That's wrong too.
That might be worse.
I don't want to call him an asshole. Let's just call him piece of shit. Okay, proceed.
Good. So now the police finally had a suspect. They just needed more evidence. So this is when everything started to...
Have I mentioned how terrible his beef jerky is yet?
Yes, a few times.
Okay, good.
So this is when everything had started to get tied together. Police started linking him to victims. Mary, his first victim, worked at EMU across the hallway from where Collins himself worked.
Okay.
Collins frequently visited friends that had lived across the hall from an apartment that Marilyn had frequently visited. He lived kitty corner across the street from Joan Shell. Collins had other friends that had lived in the apartment building that overlooked Dawn's home. And then the car that had been repeatedly spotted at all of these interactions was that gray Cutlass that was registered to his mother, who she let him use during college. It's the cab.
I know.
Yep. And then the Triumph motorcycle that he would be seen driving around.
Stalking people.
Yep. He had pieced that together with stolen parts. So Collins
Only in the 60s could you make a motorcycle out of stolen parts.
Yep. So Collins had started out with a bright future when he started his collegiate career at Eastern Michigan University. You know, all those tall white men always start out with a bright futures, but we know that none of them can be trusted.
No.
That's why I married a short white man instead.
It's that Napoleon complex.
Yep. So he was said to be an intelligent, clean-cut, nice Catholic boy. You know, a nice boy who had mommy issues. He was disgusted by women when they were on their periods. He had a massive violent streak. Huge. Had an issue, cussed out one of his girlfriends because he was making out with her and she was on her cycle. And he was like, what the fuck? Pissed.
He's got to memorize your flow charts. Come on now.
Seriously. Well, that and also like... That's how Catholics are supposed to do birth control, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's for reproduction, or recreation, not recreation.
Sure. Nope. So he also had a massive violent streak. He was such a nice guy that he had shouted at a co-ed that had refused to get in his car, telling her, quote, I'm going to drop the C word. Warning.
Clitoris?
Nope. You motherfucking cunt. Aren't you going to get in the car with me?
It's a hard no, bub.
Yeah. So his ex-girlfriends also said that he was mad all the time. He would fly off the handle if someone corrected him or disagreed with him in the slightest. You know, those kind of nice guys. Mm-hmm. Yep. Eventually
those
he was...
good Catholic boys.
Mm-hmm. Eventually he was
Boondock
caught...
Saint style.
Oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare.
I'm just talking about nice
Besmirch.
Catholic boys.
The Boondock Saints.
Also, we have not watched those movies in like 8 years.
I'm really upset about it.
All right. That's what we're doing this weekend.
Okay. We don't have our child tomorrow night, so...
Boondock Saints Marathon.
Yes, we
1
are.
and 2.
Yep.
And some hot wings.
Yep. So eventually he was caught stealing and charged with petty theft, and his grades had started to slip.
Stealing what?
Everything. Him and that friend who stole that trailer would just get in trouble constantly for stealing whatever the fuck they felt like.
Okay.
Yep. So eventually...
Not stealing lives from innocent women.
No.
Nope, not yet.
Nope, not yet. So this eventually prompted
Is this
him...
going to roll back into the last public hangings?
No.
I feel like executions
He's still
have been
alive.
Oh, great.
He's in Michigan. There's no
Is
death
he?
penalty.
Hey, I could probably look him up. I'm not going to, but...
You might have his blood. So, this wound
probably
up...
got his COVID test.
Probably. So this wound up... this kind of led to him getting kicked out of the fraternity that he was in. So he moved in.
What?
Yep. So he moved in with Arnold Davis while all of these...
Everybody has 2 first names in this fucking story.
They really do. This guy's a good guy, though. So...
Arnold?
Arnold, yeah.
As long
He's
as he
just
doesn't
his
go
roommate.
by Arnie. That always makes me cringe.
He was just the roommate, and
if
he
your
gave
name's
them
Arnold
all
and
the
you go by
testimonies.
Arnie to me is like... I don't know. It's cringeworthy.
Is it?
It's what moist is to you. Because you hate brownies.
Look, I can't have brownies. I'm a little bitter about it, okay?
Whatever.
Anyway.
They're supposed to be moist. Arnie?
Arnie Davis was his
his
roommate.
name's Arnold. Don't call him Arnie.
So once Colin got wind that he was the prime suspect of the murders, Arnold, the roommate, remembers seeing Collins carrying a box out of their apartment. He held the door for Collins, and so he managed to get a peek inside of this box.
There's a woman's head.
No. But it was filled
What's
with...
in the box? Sorry.
So it was filled with women's clothing, a rolled up pair of jeans, and a woman's shoe, and handbags.
Was that a purple shoe?
It didn't say, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably.
I've heard purple shoes were a thing.
Yep.
2 hours ago when we started this podcast.
So Collins came back that night saying that he'd gotten rid of the box.
What?
Yep.
Happened?
Oh, are we at an hour 25?
No. Hold on.
Yes.
Okay. It was paused because I right-clicked. We're at an hour 8.
Okay.
Okay.
So Collins...
Sorry. Brief moment of panic there. I thought our podcast stopped recording 48 minutes ago. In which I would have just gone to bed and y'all would have got this on a Saturday.
Yep. So Collins was spotted deep cleaning his car, but not well enough. Eventually, the evidence was mounting against Collins, and he was brought in for questioning. They searched his car that he had just cleaned. The police found blood spatter that matched Alice Collins' blood type.
Mm-hmm.
And
her body type?
Yep, her body type.
This is curvy blood. This is pear-shaped blood.
Back in the 70s, everybody looked like a stick, let's be honest.
More than likely.
Yeah. So, and then there was also a tiny piece of red and white floral fabric.
From her dress?
From the dress in California.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Roxy's dress.
Roxanne.
So that was found under one of the seats. And the local police captain called Collins at his home, informing him that he was the prime suspect. Collins had burst into tears.
They called him to inform him?
Mm-hmm. Because they needed to bring him in.
Sirens.
Yeah, because they needed to bring him in for questioning. So they were expecting a confession, but he quickly recomposed himself, denying that he even knew who Karen Sue Beineman was. After everything that was mounted up against Collins, he was officially arrested on July 31st, 1969. He was brought to court on June 2nd, 1970.
Okay.
Yep. So Sheriff Harvey said about the case, quote, "I knew we had a good case, but I knew it would be a lengthy trial. And boy, here California had a better case than us, and they got the death penalty."
Do you know Woodstock was in mid-August 1969?
So he was sent to jail about when Woodstock happened.
Just before Woodstock, yeah.
Yep. So the prosecution brought forward 57 witnesses.
That's a lot.
Yep. But the crutch of their case rested on the hairs and the bloodstains. The defense's strategy was to invalidate the eyewitnesses of the prosecution that they'd brought in and to cast doubt on the hair samples. They argued that if those hairs did come from the basement, then there would be debris in them that had matched the hairs that were collected in the basement. Mm-hmm. And the prosecutors brought back their hair analyst. And guess what? The hair that was found in
had debris?
Had debris from the basement.
Oh, sucks to suck.
Isn't that cute? So the defense was getting desperate. They debated putting Collins on the stand to defend himself, thinking that if they didn't, then he would appear guilty. So after a long debate amongst themselves and the lawyers, where Collins had flew into a rage, they knew that they wouldn't be able to control, he wouldn't be able to control himself while he was on the stand. So they decided that they would put it.
He was such an angry bastard. We can't.
Yeah. They legit were like, nah, bro, you're gonna incriminate yourself. So they decided to be all dramatic and
dun dun dun.
Yes. So they
that's what
in
I'm
court
trying to say. They couldn't trust him for 10 minutes on the stand.
Pretty much. So in court, they decided that they were going to ask Collins' mom if she would think it was appropriate that Collins was put on the stand to defend himself, asking that the pair could excuse themselves for a discussion in the judge's quarters. After 30 minutes behind closed doors, his mother ran out of the judge's quarters and out of the courtroom in full tears.
Get me out of here.
Yep. And then Collins had followed behind her with red eyes. So Collins was never put to the stand to defend himself.
Okay.
Yeah. Because she came out in tears and they were like, this looks bad, guys.
Fuck this.
Yep.
I just hear like dun 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 dun, 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 and she's just running door after door.
I don't want anything to do with my son.
No.
So on August 19th...
He tried to rape and murder me.
Probably. Why? He had mommy issues. She had 3 marriages.
She goes running past in purple shoes. Click, click, click. Oh, now it all makes sense.
Oh my God. So, well, she wound up having like 3 marriages, and like the last 2 were super abusive. So they were all like, Collins has a stereotypical background that's associated with most serial killers.
They probably abused him too. Like,
yeah, but that doesn't fucking.
I'm just saying that seems to be like the pattern of
right.
serial killers.
But people can suffer abuse and not become serial murderers. Anyway, August 19th, 1970, after weeks on trial, the jury deliberated for 3 days and came back with a guilty verdict of murder.
3 days?
3 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So they came back with a verdict for the murder of Karen Sue Beineman of guilty. Mm-hmm. And then on August 23rd, John Norman Collins was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years to be served in hard labor. And now that Michigan had convicted him of the crime, they didn't want to let him go, and California never extradited him for the murder of Roxy Phillips.
Okay.
So Collin was never charged with the murders of the other women and literal children. Their cases are technically still unsolved, and he is currently spending the rest of his life in the Marquette Branch Prison in Marquette, Michigan.
We definitely get that blood work at my lab.
Mm-hmm. You have to look him up then, right?
No. Well, we can look him up in Otis.
Oh, no, Otis is just a precinct thing, isn't it? Mm-mm. Oh, it's whole
Otis
statewide?
It's inmate search.
So he's never going to get released.
You want to see a picture of him today?
Sure, why not? He's a real prick. He's adamant that he was railroaded. He writes letters to strange women like that, like they just like pushed it through and they were like, no, I was misrepresented and stuff like that. And like he's literally actively writing letters to women and stuff like that.
Dumb question. What's his last name?
Collins.
Sorry, it's been a fucking hour.
All right. So while he's John
Collins. What year is he born? 47? Marquette.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's him.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at that mustache.
John Norman Collins, right?
Is he literally balding from his center part?
6 foot, 224. Yeah, male, blue. If you literally go to Otis, which is Otis, Michigan, which is the inmate search thing, you can just type in John Collins and you can see this fuck for yourself. He has no marks, scars, or tattoos. His alias is Waterhead? What the fuck is Waterhead?
Okay, also John Chapman. So he was actually born in Canada, and he tried to get his name changed to Chapman, which was his birth name, to get him transferred to Canada, because in Canada, he could have wound up getting parole.
His date of sentence was August 28, 1970 in Washtenaw County by jury.
Yep.
He has... Yeah, he has
no conditions.
Life and minimum sentences.
They're never going to let him out.
Like, literally, look at that picture.
They didn't even want to extradite him to California.
Isn't that crazy, though, that you can just fucking look him up and see a picture of him?
Uh-huh. Right there. Marquette Branch. Yep.
Yeah.
High level of security.
Security 5, yeah. Uh-huh. I'm assuming that's the highest one.
Uh-huh. But it's the highest security prison.
Okay, I get the alias of John Chapman, but why Waterhead? What the fuck is that? His alias is Waterhead. That is the worst. Anyway, I'm going to click on a button that's probably going to... What is this?
Oh, wow.
First degree murder. Okay. So, yeah, first degree. The penal code. Anyway, so that's him. What a gomer. He has a mustache nowadays, and he looks a little...
He looks like he's balding from his center part.
He might be.
He is.
He also just looks like
everything looks like it's sagging.
He looks like every country singer from that time period, what they look like nowadays.
Yes.
All right.
Him and Willie Nelson.
Are you done, or do you
I'm
have
done.
more? Okay.
I got to do sources.
Source me.
Yep. So I have murderpedia.org.
Naturally.
Yep. That's where I got the
only in your state.
Bulk. No, only in your state. So murderpedia.org has a list of articles. There was articles from the Ann Arbor News, Ypsilanti Press, Detroit News, the Detroit Free Press. There was excerpts from books that have been written about this guy. There was also a 3-part article and a 45-minute documentary from Fox 2 Detroit.
But was there anything about Waterhead?
Nothing. I don't get it.
Should we write him a letter?
Dear Mr. Waterhead.
No, dear Mr. Collins, the fuck's up with the Waterhead thing? Sincerely, Tell Me Something Terrible podcast. We're gonna send that to him.
Also, would you be game for an interview? Just kidding. Go
fuck
kill
off.
yourself. Yeah.
Sincerely, choke yourself on a black cord, you worthless fuck.
Yep. So there's also...
But seriously, what's the Waterhead thing?
So, there's a documentary and a tri-series.
You think
there
I'm
was
joking,
3.
but I think we should send him a letter.
We should do it and see what happens. We'll keep you updated. So, there was a triple
docuseries.
Yep, there's a little tiny 45-minute blurb, and there was a 3.
Are you trying to click a fake camera at me?
Yep, and there was a 3-part article from the Fox to Detroit, and it was called "Michigan Murders 50 Years Ago: Terror Reigned in Ypsilanti." Ypsilanti, if you're not from around here. And that was
terrible.
That's Michigan's biggest serial killer.
Don't stick tree branches in vaginas.
Please don't. They don't go in there. They're really dry.
Whoa.
Tree branches, not the vaginas.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we've taken a darker turn after this horrible story you told us.
Yep.
So you told us about this horrible guy. Mm-hmm. He actually looks like the cowboy dude.
No, yes, the Yukon Jack guy.
Cowboy Mike from the bonus episode. That's what this guy looks like.
Yep.
Anyway,
they all look like that.
This was one of the this was bad.
It was awful,
and there wasn't any fun parts of it.
I tried to include the fun
Did
parts.
You?
Yeah, with the vagina.
Yeah. That was an hour ago. I've been sad for 45 minutes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I understand that but this was I've never heard of this. And it's not that far in the past where it's ancient history or anything. Yeah. And it's local.
Yes. Washtenaw County is literally 45 minutes from us.
Yeah. Not from here.
I
it's
went
less than
to
that.
school in Washtenaw. These road names I've seen driving to school.
Yeah. So anyway, on this note, we're going to take a week off.
We are.
10 days from now,
real
you'll
heavy,
get
guys.
another episode. And she says it's about hair, so that's fun. But anyway, so this is episode 40, which is a big milestone for us. Mm-hmm. Not really. We're over the hill now. I don't know what the fuck it means. I've also said the word fuck 14 times in this episode,
Proud
which
of you.
I think is a personal best.
Proud of you. Welcome to my level.
It feels like when I deadlifted 265, that personal best. I feel like I've done something.
I said fuck 17 times.
In one episode. But no, I think this episode warranted it, though, because you just brought up negative thing after.
And it just kept getting worse.
Yeah, and when you talked, I don't know how long this will be once it's edited, but literally we have an hour and a half of audio to go through here. Mm-hmm. We started drinking 3 hours ago. So that probably aids in the
depressive state that you're in.
Just no.
Make sure you're sober when you listen to this is all we're saying.
Just the loosey-goosiness of how my brain is processing this information.
It's bad.
It is. So anyway.
Do you know why I drank last night?
Yeah, right? So anyway, we're going to go camping and not talk about murder for we might talk about murder. If you've ever hung out with us outside of this podcast,
I'm going to bring it up at some time, and he's going to elbow me and be like, bitch, we're about a bunch of Christians. Shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah. Can we have 3 days without some murder talk? But anyway, I'm going to go pet my cat and act like this didn't happen. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being around for 40 episodes.
And if you've made it this far,
congratulations. But no, seriously, we haven't taken any time off since we started this.
We haven't.
Which means we've been doing this for 20 weeks straight. Uh-huh. Holy fuck, 20 weeks. 18. No, I don't know how many times. But that's a lot. Uh-huh. That's 5 months. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're going to take a week off. If you enjoy the podcast, share the Facebook page. Watch the YouTube videos. You don't have to be a patron if you don't want to. But if you do miss us for a week, there is 3 bonus episodes. The 4th one will probably release on Tuesday. Sure. We're hoping. Anyway. And then keep listening. Tell your friends. Be like, hey, do you hate your life? A little bit? Oh, you like your life? You should listen to this podcast. It'll make you hate your life. No?
Get on my level.
Yeah. Listen to this on your way to work and then tell me how bad your day is. No, I'm just kidding. Some of them are fun. Yeah. You talked to me about water horses once. That was fun.
It was fun.
I feel like it's been all downhill since, what was that episode, 25?
I was like, a mythical creature that eats animals? That's too lighthearted.
I've been pushing for, sirens. I want sirens.
You want sirens?
I don't know that much about them.
I'll do sirens.
Yes. I think the world wants sirens.
I agree.
Also, no idea what we're going to name this one. So if you've made it this far, tell me what you think of the name, because we thought of it about 3 minutes after I'm going to hit stop here. So
okay.
I don't think we should call it Virginia.
No.
That seems offensive to everyone
Yes.
involved. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for listening. Like, listen.
Subscribe, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Like we have we're the lowest of influence
Yes.
of whatever that is. Content creators.
Yes, look at us go.
Look at us go. All right. See you guys next Tuesday,
Next month.
August. Right?
Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our terrible podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at TMSTPod.
And if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on Patreon at Tell Me Something Terrible.
Oof, that was terrible.